So in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about doom scrolling, how it affects us. This is going to be a lot more of a less heavier edited video, just kind of chill, sit, talk about some things, and get this script out. Should be a longer video, so grab your snacks, get ready, throw this on in the background. I don't know. Yeah, let's get this started. So let me ask you something. When's the last time you picked up your phone just to check one thing and then you suddenly realize that 20 minutes have passed, right? Maybe open Instagram to reply to a message, but somehow, magically, you ended up watching a compilation of AI generated videos, then a heated political debate, then someone's vacation photos, then a news article about something terrible happening halfway across the world. And yeah, before you know it, your battery was down 15% and you felt much worse. Not better, but worse. If you're like me, it's probably been pretty recently. And there's a common name that we've all come to know this by, and that is doom scrolling. Or, I mean, it could just be scrolling. The doom prefix, it's like, is that necessary? I guess so, because we don't have enough doom and gloom in our lives, right? But we all know what type of scrolling we're talking about here, doom scrolling. But here's kind of what fascinates me. This isn't really about lack of willpower or having a ton of willpower. It's not about you being lazy or distracted or addicted in the traditional sense. What we're dealing with is something far more interesting and, frankly, kind of terrifying. We're dealing with some of the most sophisticated behavioral engineering ever created, backed by billions of dollars and some of the smartest people on the planet, all working toward one singular goal, which is keeping you on the platform for as long as humanly possible. So today we're going to deep dive into the mechanics of doom scrolling. We're going to talk about how social media platforms have evolved into these perfect attention capture machines. We're going to explore the psychology they exploit, the features they've designed, and ultimately what this constant overconsumption of media is doing to us as individuals and as a society. And look, I want to be clear up front before we get super into this video is I am not here to tell you to go and delete all your apps and go live in a cabin in the woods. I'm not immune to this stuff either, but I think understanding how it works, really deeply understanding it more, is the first step to taking back some control. And obviously, it's ironic how you can watch TikToks on how to stop watching TikToks. Okay, anyway, let's start back at the beginning. Remember when social media was just a list? Facebook in 2006 was essentially a digital yearbook. You had a profile, you could write on people's walls, you could poke someone, which in retrospect is kind of weird. But mostly you went to the site with a purpose. You logged in, you checked for updates, maybe you posted something, and then you went and logged out. Went on about your day. The site wasn't really designed to keep you there indefinitely. It was about some sense of community online. Twitter, now X, if anybody's calling it that still, in its earlier days was similar. You followed some people, you saw their tweets in reverse chronological order, and that was it. You could reach the end of your feed. You could actually see every tweet from every single person you followed, get to the bottom, and be done. Could you imagine doing that on Instagram today? Because believe it or not, Instagram was the same way when it launched back in 2010. It was chronological. You scrolled until you saw that post from your friend at brunch from yesterday, and you knew you were caught up. There was an endpoint, something to stop you. But then that shifted. Around 2016, Instagram moved away from chronological feeds to algorithmic feeds. Facebook had already done this previously. Twitter followed suit. And suddenly there was no more quote-unquote catching up. There was no endpoint. The feed then became infinite, not because there was infinite content, but because the algorithm could continue reshuffling and reserving you content in ways that felt fresh. Now, if you tried doing this today, there is infinite content, whether it be from bots, spam accounts, or the Wrap account. There's just so many things to look at. It's almost impossible to get through it in our lifespans. And this wasn't an accident. of course, this was intentional because here's the thing that these companies figured out. If users could reach the end of their feed, they would leave. They would close the app, they would go do something else, and from a business perspective, that's a problem. See, social media companies don't make money from you having a nice, bounded experience with their product. They make money from ads, and advertising revenue is directly tied to how much time you spend on the platform and how many ads they can push to you. It's not whether or not they can sell those ads, but people are paying Instagram to show their ads, paying Facebook, paying whoever to show these ads to you. The more minutes of your attention that they can capture, the more money they make. It's really that simple. Easy math. More time, more money. So thus, the infinite scroll was born from this. And it's paired with something called variable ratio reinforcement. I know, big fancy term, which is a fancy way of saying slot machine mechanics. Think about it. When you pull down to refresh your feed, you don't know what you're going to get. Maybe it's something boring. Maybe it's something hilarious. Could be something that makes you angry, something political. Maybe it's something that validates your worldview or challenges it. The unpredictability of the scroll is the point. Your brain releases a little hit of dopamine in anticipation of what you might find, and that feeling becomes addictive. This is why YouTube has recently created their YouTube Shorts, because they can keep people on the app for longer. And also it takes away some of the, in a sense, yourselfness of YouTube. It's taking the you out of YouTube. It's YouTube, not just because you can upload videos or anybody can upload videos, but you yourself are searching for things that you're interested in. Same with even the suggested page. The homepage on YouTube is still technically an algorithm, but typically it's channels you subscribe to, similar to content you've watched. And they added YouTube Shorts, one, to keep you on the platform for longer, two, similar to these last ones we just talked about with Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They are building algorithms to keep you on the app longer, to make you feel challenged, to give you certain emotions. It's one thing YouTube has struggled with not having that, because there was always something that you had to search for. It wasn't fed to you. So this is the same mechanism that makes slot machines so effective for gamblers. You keep pulling the lever because the next pull might be the big win. 100% of gamblers quit before their next big win, whatever that saying is. You keep scrolling because the next post might be the really interesting one, the one to change your perspective, the one to give you motivation to get out of bed and go do something creative, to stop consuming. And just like slot machines, the apps have gotten very, very good at calibrating that reward schedule. Not every post is interesting. If it were, you would actually get bored. But enough of them are engaging enough that you keep going, thinking the next one might be even better. The technology got more sophisticated too. Machine learning algorithms started tracking everything, and I mean everything. How long you look at a post, whether you interact with it or not, what you interact with most, what time of day you're most active, what kind of content makes you stop scrolling versus what keeps you going. Every little minute detail, every single interaction you have with these platforms is data. And that data is fed into models that are constantly learning, constantly optimizing, constantly getting better at predicting what will keep you engaged. And you signed up for it. When you created an account, that data is now legally theirs. Let's talk about some of the specific features and design decisions that make doom scrolling so effective. First, there's the autoplay. You finish watching a video on TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, and immediately the next one starts playing. Not technically, you don't have to do anything rigorous. You have to scroll with your thumb, okay? It is fed to you. But it's essentially like you don't have to do anything, right? In fact, you yourself have to actively choose when to stop. The default is continuation, and this removes friction, which is crucial. Every moment where you yourself in your own little brain have to make a conscious choice is a moment where you might leave the app. So they're trying their very best to eliminate every single one of these moments that they can. Then there's the notification system, red dots, badges, everything. Push notifications that pop up on your lock screen. These are all designed to create a sense of urgency, and FOMO, which, if you do not know by now, is the fear of missing out. You get so many notifications, like someone liked your post, someone commented, someone messaged you, someone tagged you in a post, someone commented on a tag you're posted in. Wait, did I say that right? I don't know. But essentially, they're saying you have to go check this right now. Because what if it's important? What if it's something that is a life-changing opportunity when 99.9% of the time it's not? It's not important. I have really tried my best to disable notifications, and they still find a way to send me more that I thought I had disabled. It's crazy how they can just game the system so hard. But here's a little bit of the darker part of this is that most of the time, yes, like I'm saying, it's not important, but occasionally it is. Just important enough that it keeps you on your toes, on your heels, thinking about it. That variable reinforcement again. So you keep checking just in case it's something important. There's also the social proof element. You see a post that has 10,000 likes, hundreds of comments, it's been shared thousands of times. Your brain interprets this as, wow, this must be super important. This must be worth your attention because everyone else is engaging with it, so I should too. Which, again, is a very deceptive tactic, especially with platforms like TikTok. TikTok pushes your content out to more people as more people engage with it. This, in turn, just creates a snowball effect of popularity. So all the platforms got really good at content diversity. Your feed is no longer just posts from friends, family, anything, because now it's posts from friends, suggested posts from accounts that you don't follow, ads, recommended reels, stories, news articles, shopping suggestions, videos that are popular, that are coming up, that are tagged with hashtags that are similar to your interest. The variety keeps your brain engaged because it never quite knows what's coming next. And let's talk a little bit more, dive into the recommendation algorithms themselves, because this is where things get a little bit more interesting to me. These algorithms have exactly one job, and that is to maximize engagement, keep you on the app, keep you posting, commenting. Yeah. The idea of these is not to make you happier, not to inform you better, not to verify and fact check posts, not to connect you more meaningfully. It is to maximize engagement. Time on platform. That's the metric that they're optimized for. And it turns out that certain kinds of content are much better at generating engagement than others. Think about it like the Mr. Beastification of content, okay? Content that triggers strong emotions tend to perform really well. Anger, outrage, fear, anxiety, these are incredibly engaging emotions. They make you want to read the comments. They make you want to share the post. They make you want to argue with strangers on the internet. So the algorithms have learned that if it shows you content that makes you angry, emits a strong feeling, emotion, that you'll engage with it in some way, whether that be share it, like it, comment, downvote, whatever platform you're on. And thus creates more time that you spend on that platform. And so it shows you more content doing the same thing, rinse and repeat. It's not conspiring to upset you. It's just doing what it was designed to do. Don't hate the system, or don't hate the player, hate the game. Except this time it's the opposite. We'll say the algorithm is the game, and the corporations that built the algorithms are the player. Is that right? I don't know. Essentially what I'm saying is, yeah, don't hate on the algorithms themselves. Hate on the people that created these algorithms to essentially not brainwash us, but dumb us down. Because in the end, the result is the same. You end up seeing a feed that's increasingly filled with content that triggers these every single negative emotion under the sun. Now, to kind of veer away from that a little bit, there's also the parasocial relationship element. You follow influencers, celebrities, creators who share intimate details of their lives. You see them every single day. you watch their stories, you feel like you know them. And that feeling creates a sense of obligation to keep up with them, to see what they're doing, to make sure you don't miss anything. And that's weird, right? These are just regular people. And I think the best description of this recently that comes to mind is Corey Kenshin, his video, I'm Just a Regular Guy. Again, these are just people that happen to be known by tons of other people. Just because you watch them, you think you know them, you don't. And it's a really scary dynamic that I kind of want to go into more in detail in a different video. So these platforms have also figured out the power of streaks and metrics. Snapchat popularized this with their streak feature. You have to send a snap to someone every day or you lose your streak. Suddenly, maintaining the streak becomes its own motivation, completely divorced from whether you actually want to communicate with that person or not. You're not using the app because it adds any value to your life. You're using it because breaking the streak would feel like a loss. Again, this is something TikTok has implemented as well. If you send posts to somebody every day, certain amount of days, the number goes up. And that's just to keep you engaged on the app. And then there's the design of the apps themselves. Everything is optimized for speed and ease. Posts load instantly. Videos buffer in the background. Scrolling is smooth and responsive. There's no friction, no delay, nothing to break the flow state of scrolling. You just keep going and going and going. The reason being, if there was any delay, any latency, if it wasn't smooth, if it wasn't a responsive, interactive experience, you would leave and you would go find something that is. Compare this to, say, reading a book. You have to physically turn the page. There's a moment of pause. Eventually, you reach the end of a chapter, a natural stopping point. You can close the book and walk away. Physical limitations actually help us moderate our consumption a ton. But the infinite scroll, doom scrolling, in the name, has no limitations. It is infinite. There's no end of the chapter. There's no stopping point. The feed just keeps going and going forever. And the app is always in your pocket, always accessible, always ready to serve you more content the instant you're bored or anxious. We've talked about how the platforms are designed to keep us scrolling, but why does it work so well? What is it about our brains that makes us so susceptible to this? Let's start with dopamine, which I feel like I've talked about a lot on this channel, but you've probably heard about it. It's a super talked about topic now. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, but that's not entirely right. It's more accurate to think of dopamine as the anticipation chemical. It's released when you are expecting a reward, not necessarily when you receive it. When you open a social media app, your brain anticipates that you might find something rewarding. Maybe a funny meme, maybe validation in the form of likes, maybe interesting news, maybe a message from a friend. All of that is anticipation, and that anticipation triggers a dopamine release, which creates a desire to keep seeking that. And because the reward is variable, sometimes you find something great, sometimes you don't, the anticipation never fully goes away. You keep seeking, keep scrolling, chasing that potential reward. This is why you can mindlessly scroll through dozens and dozens of absolute dog water, mediocre posts, and then keep going after. You're not enjoying most of what you're seeing, but your brain is still anticipating that the next post might be the good one, might be the jackpot, the lottery. There's also something called the Zeigarnik effect, correct me if I'm saying that wrong, which is the tendency to remember uncompleted tasks better than the completed ones. An infinite feed is by definition uncompleted. You can never humanly possibly finish it. And so there's always this low-level psychological tension, this sense that there's more to see, more to do, more to check, more to catch up on. You can never fully relax because the task is never done. Then let's go ahead and throw in the anxiety component. Modern life is full of uncertainty and stress. Social media, in the beginning, and I guess in a way now, offers an escape from that, a distraction, something to occupy your mind when you're feeling anxious. The problem is, yeah, it's not actually addressing the underlying anxiety. It's just covering it up temporarily. It's a band-aid, right? And often the content you consume while doom scrolling actually makes the anxiety way worse. I mean, think about it. You see news about disasters, political conflicts, social problems, personal tragedies. Your brain wasn't designed to process this much negative information, especially about things you have no control over, things that you're not interested in, even. It is extremely overwhelming. Ultimately, just a whirlwind of stress, anxiety, fear mongering, any fear inducing word you can think of for it. There's also this element of social comparison. Social media presents a curated, filtered version of everyone else's lives. You get to decide what you put on there, and everyone else does as well. So you see their highlights, their successes, their best moments. And obviously, it's very easy to compare because your own unfiltered reality is your own. You know every single detail about it, but that's just a snippet of their life, enough to make you feel like they're living better than you, that they have it better than you, that you're falling behind. This triggers a sense of inadequacy, which makes you want to keep scrolling, maybe to find something that makes you feel better, or maybe just to distract yourself from those uncomfortable feelings. I think everybody, no matter if this is a big or small feeling, this is felt, no matter what. Even with somebody like myself who has to post to get that, to itch that creative part of my brain, you are posting what you want people to see. And as an artist, it almost detracts from the art itself because you aren't seeing what's going into it. Not only are you starting to feel inadequate about yourself, that you're falling behind, other people's lives are picture perfect and yours has just gone down the drain. Let's go ahead and add in another thing for that anxiety that you're feeling. And this is loneliness. And we're living through what some researchers call a loneliness epidemic, what most people are saying the male loneliness epidemic, and this is a contributing factor, maybe not the top it's a contributing factor, okay? We'll say. But that's not the point of this video. Anyways, people are more isolated now than ever, despite being more quote-unquote connected than ever, which is crazy irony that I think lots of people are seeing now. Obviously, I think this started with the pandemic. Everybody was stuck at home. You start feeling lonely, feeling depressed. You go to your phone. 5 years later, you have those same tendencies, same habits, and we're feeling the same, if not more alone. But social media has a solution for you. It's called connection. Connection, have you heard of it? It promises that you are, no matter what, part of a community, that you're in touch with what's happening, that you are not alone. But as with everything else on social media, it is a shallow version of connection, of community. You can interact with hundreds, if not thousands of people online and still feel deeply alone. And that gap between the promise and the reality keeps you coming back, seeking something that the platform can never fully deliver. That's when you have to realize, hey, this isn't helping. Let's go ahead and drop this. We're not going to get connection from this. For me, I have to agree in the sense of, yeah, I don't really talk to people on there. I'll sometimes catch up with friends, but it's mostly, hey, I'm going to send a relative or a friend this video that I saw. You're not really connecting with them in the same physical sense that you are in face-to-face conversation. And there's also this separate concept, which I mentioned earlier, of the flow state. But think of flow state in a negative context. This is not like Steph Curry getting in a flow state, hitting 8 threes in a row, okay? This is not anything else I was going to say. Anything else that's good with flow state. Think of Soul. If you ever watched the movie Soul, think about flow state like that, where he's playing his piano away, okay? Because normally, flow state is a good thing. It's that feeling of being completely absorbed, surrounded in an activity where time seems to disappear. Time and space are warped. You're in a whole different plane of existence. But doom scrolling can create a kind of flow state, but opposite. It's negative. It's negative. You're absorbed, but not in a meaningful activity. You're not creating anything, not learning anything significant most of the time, and you're not building anything. You're just consuming passively while time just slips away. And I know, as depressing as it is, some people are accepting of that. That's the point of scrolling. That's why they do it, because they want to lose time. They have nothing to look forward to. And I understand. But it's really hard to escape because, like any flow state, you're in it, right? You're absorbed. That's what that is. You're absorbed, okay? So here's something that doesn't get talked about enough with this is the physical component. Because when you're scrolling, how are you sitting? How are you laying? Normally you're like me, you got the nerd neck. When you're scrolling, your body is typically in a sedentary position. You're often hunched over your phone, looking like Hunchback of Notre Dame, neck bent, shoulders tight, clenching your jaw. This posture itself can contribute to those feelings of anxiety and depression. Plus, you're likely not moving, not getting fresh air, not interacting with the physical world. All of this compounds the psychological effects. Not only that, timing matters as well. A lot of doom scrolling, I think for most people, happens at night, right before bed. The blue light from your screen interferes with melatonin production, making it harder to fall asleep. I think this has become more common knowledge especially if you have glasses, contact or prescription glasses, typically they want you to get blue light because you're looking at screens 12 hours a day. And this is why you get those cheapo glasses from Walmart for $3 because they protect your eyes at night. But beyond that, you're filling your mind with stimulating, often negative content right before you're trying to fall asleep. So is it any wonder at all that so many people report lying awake with their minds racing, unable to shut off? Or if you're like me, you fall asleep and then you have the weirdest dreams that you can imagine, you can't explain, and you wish you had never dreamt them. Let's zoom out. And let's talk about what this is doing to us as a whole, as a collective. First, the numbers. Studies have shown that the average person spends somewhere between 2 to 4 hours a day on social media. I think studies are wrong. Think about how long you spend on social media in a day. Okay, a couple hours, that's normal. But then think about how many people that have jobs where you're working from home, where you don't have much to do, where people are unemployed. But think about how many people exist on this world. It's obvious that, this is just a median, 2 to 4 hours on average. I definitely think that we are on the higher spectrum of 6 to 8 hours a day because I try my best to not be on my phone a ton, most of my time being spent on YouTube, and I still, on average, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And if you think about it, that's just roughly a quarter to a half of our walking leisure time, just scrolling. Think about that. If you live to be 80 years old and you spend 3 hours a day, at least, on social media from age 15 onward, that's over 8 years of your life spent looking at a feed. Think about all the things that you could do with that 8 years. Think about people that are in prison for 8 years and what they have to endure. It's a lot. That's a lot of time. And for me, for lots of people in the younger generations, I am specifically worried for kids growing up now because I have grown up in the age where digitalization of everything has been on the outburst, right? And there were still limitations, but the kids coming up now, where especially if you have younger parents, not calling them out entirely, specifically just them, but the term iPad kid is popular for a reason. There are kids that just sit and scroll on iPads, and that's how they fix their problems, watching Miss Rachel and the Blueberry dancing videos. It is discouraging thinking about how much of their life will be enveloped with screens. Because for me, I got an iPad when I was maybe 10 and couldn't do much with it. I still spent plenty of time outside, spent more time on the Xbox than anything. I didn't get my first phone till I was in middle school, and it was a flip phone. What's the point of what you going to do with a flip phone? And so I do worry about our generation of how much screen time we are spending, right? And it's your choice, ultimately, at the end of the day. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I do the same. Not as much as I used to, but more than I want to. But just think about that number. Over 8 years of your life spent looking at a feed. If you live to be 80, with the average lifespan still increasing, it's a high possibility. But it's not just about the time itself, okay? It's about what that time is replacing. Every hour that you spend scrolling is an hour not spent doing something else. Could that be more obvious? No. You spend that time not reading a book. I'm not any better than you. I don't read. You're spending that time not having meaningful, personal, face-to-face conversation. You're not pursuing hobbies, not being bored, which, by the way, is important because boredom is when our brains process things, when we get creative, when we daydream and imagine, but we never truly let ourselves be bored anymore. The moment we have a free second, we pull out our phones. We're not bored because we have phones. If you're bored, dude, why are you bored? Go watch some YouTube. Go watch some TikTok. Go watch some Instagram Reels, Grandma. Really interesting now seeing videos online where people are, quote unquote, raw dogging time. Do you want to know what raw dogging time is called? Meditation. And if you're not meditating, then that's called boredom. Boredom is one of the most powerful things, in my opinion. In jobs where I didn't have to work from home, I spent so much time thinking about what I could be doing if I got those 8 hours back. Now think about that. 8 hours that you're spending at work. Man, what do I want to do? Well, I don't want to be working. What would I be doing if I were home? Taking a nap. Maybe I would watch some YouTube. Maybe I would, well, I've been wanting to learn a new instrument. There's an idea. Maybe I could spend that time learning an instrument, right? It's so crucial to have that downtime if you can afford it and to be bored, to truly let yourself think. Because alluding back earlier with the algorithmic feeds, we are fed content. We no longer search for what we want. And when we search, hey, I got ChatGPT right there for me. That's my homie. He'll tell me exactly what I need to know. And it's, not saying that creative is lost. I've seen more creative videos now more than ever. But think about how creative you could be if you let yourself be bored. Anyways, there's growing research on what this constant consumption is doing to our brains. Because obviously, yeah, our attention spans seem to be shrinking. They clearly are. We're less able to focus on long-form content, such and such like this video, less able to sit with complex ideas that require sustained thought. Let me go back and let's talk about long-form content and attention spans. Going back to the point about being bored, again, intertwining those in when you're bored, there are things you're looking for, things you're looking to do. But when your entire day is spent watching 515-second videos, yeah, your attention span is going to be shot because you're looking for that hit immediately, right? That's why Mr. Beast starts his videos yelling at you. Like, this is I'm not calling out Mr. Beast. Again, just kind of the most popularized idea of this, of attention span shrinking, which is why their videos are so rapidly edited, why things are fast cut, fast pace, because these cuts are keeping your attention. You're like, oh, that was interesting. Do it again. And they do it again. Oh, that's a cool graphic. Do it again. So attention spans are shrinking. And this is something I think everybody has noticed with the short form content, is that you can't focus on a video more than 30 seconds. And I think it's interesting because there is such a large group of people fighting back against that, though, with long form content. Okay, videos such as this, longer, less edited. And these are the people that are seeking out more of the connection, I guess, the face-to-face conversation, which is why people listen to podcasts, because podcasts are a good way of listening to something, keeping your mind active, and it's long form. It's something you can keep up with. It's like movies. You know, movies are still one of the greatest forms of media, but they don't always hold your hand or hold your attention. Sometimes you just have to get, and I am so grateful for the people that are kind of fighting back against their shrinking attention spans and committing to long form content, because this is something I've also recently done over the past year or so. Obviously, I still struggle with short form content. Who doesn't? But long form content is so much fun because you're like, hey, let me spend 45 minutes to go and sit down with this person digitally and just hear what they're, going to talk about. And you can get more in depth with the more time you have. The more time you have, the deeper you can go, the more meaningful it can get, right? So, yeah, we're less able to focus on long form content for the majority of us and less able to sit with complex ideas that require sustained thought. What is sustained thought? Okay, think about brain food, right? People talk about bananas, right? That's sustenance, whatever. Something that sustains your hunger. Same thing with thought. It's sustaining your thought, your mind. And this is, I believe, most interesting with psychological debates. This is something me and one of my buddies were talking about the other night. And he has a psychology class, and he gave me this psychology breakdown, this psychology experiment. And he was like, he read me out the story, and he was like, what does this mean to you? What's the moral? What's the themes? And we got extremely deep into what the metaphors are and reading between the lines, and it's really fun. It's engaging. It's intriguing. And he said, "Wow, that was probably one of the most in depth I've gone with anybody I've asked about this." And he mentioned that people that he's talked to for this class, that they are media illiterate. They can't read through the lines. They see a brick wall, that they can't engage with these thought-provoking ideas. And I definitely think this is a part of the reason why. When you think the same? Because sustained thought, although we have the very typical philosophical ramblings of whichever Greek whoever you want to talk about, right? I mean, they're all onto something. It was all a thought that they put into words, and those words lived on for years, and now we're hearing about them now. It was popular enough to reach us now, which means, hey, this must be a decent thought. I think, therefore I am. Okay, that's like the dumbest thing you've ever heard, right? But again, you can look into anything deeper and find some metaphor or meaning for you. So I think, therefore I am. What does that mean? Well, if you can think, that means you exist. And you can just kind of rabbit trail from there. And boom, you have sustained thought. Was that so difficult? I don't know. You tell me. Anyways, getting back on track. Everything now feels like it has to be quick, snackable, digestible in 15, 30 seconds or less. And this is impacting our memories, of course. We can't remember all these things. We're not supposed to be seeing this much information. We're not supposed to be this overloaded. So what's that going to do? It's like when you're on your phone, on your computer, when you got too many files, you run out of space. And that's kind of what's happening with us. We are kind of struggling because when we're constantly consuming new information, we don't give our brains time to consolidate memories, to process what we've experienced. Everything just washes over us in a blur. And this leads to more concerns and mental health, which now more than ever is a huge problem, and more people are speaking out, going to therapy, seeking answers to their problems. Okay? But it's still a huge concern. I don't know if this is true, but it definitely seems like this is dire times for that suicide rates are higher than they've ever been. And it's concerning. Multiple studies have found correlations between heavy social media use and increased rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness, particularly among young people. Now, correlation isn't causation, and the relationship of these two is complex. But it's hard to ignore this seemingly interwoven pattern. As social media use has skyrocketed, so has the mental health crisis, especially among teenagers and young adults who are using these apps the most. And to kind of call back to feeling like we're behind and we're only seeing perfect snippets of people's lives, yeah, obviously you're going to feel like you're going to feel behind because people are living these perfect lives. What am I doing? I'm sitting here in my mom's basement, something like that. Obviously is going to impact your mental health increasingly. There's also this information overload aspect. We're exposed to more information in a single day than our ancestors were in their entire lifetimes. Think about Ooga Booga and the caveman. Think about Ooga and think about Booga, okay? They had rock, they had stick, they had community, they have animal, they have tree, they have plant. Do you think the Neanderthals were consuming as much information as we were? I think we have consumed more information in a day than what was possible for anybody in the 1800s to consume in a year. Because think about how they had to get their media. It was all physical. It was books. It was word of mouth. It was newspaper, catalogs, all these things. And that's information. And the amount that we're consuming is just astronomical. Our brains just simply aren't equipped to process this much. We end up in a state of continuous partial attention, okay? Never fully focused on anything, always split between multiple streams of information and always anxious that we're missing something. And then there's the impact on our public discourse. The algorithms that optimize for engagement have helped create echo chambers and filter bubbles. I think we have all heard of echo chambers by now. Maybe I'll do a video on that soon too. Okay, you see content that aligns with your already existing beliefs, which reinforces those beliefs, which makes you engage more with that kind of content, which makes the algorithm show you more of it. Thus, this is an echo chamber. Okay, I like this thing, and it's exactly what I agree with. It's not challenging my thought process at all. Let me get another side of that. Okay, that's pretty much what echo chamber is in simple terms. I like this thing. I agree with it. It's my belief system. I watch it. It's reinforcing my beliefs. My beliefs are hardened, and I'm getting fed more of my beliefs. There's no competition of thought, okay? No challenge. Meanwhile, people with different viewpoints are having the same experience in their own bubbles. This is going on everywhere. We're all living in slightly different realities, consuming different information, and it's becoming harder and harder to find some form of common ground. It's just like, hey, Jerry, what did you do on Tuesday? I went to go see a movie. Oh, which movie? There's only 3 out right now. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. I saw a trailer. This was early 2000s, when you can talk about that. Obviously, there's way more time involved with that concept, but it's just become increasingly more difficult to stay up to date with the same things. Because think about, hey, have you watched this show? Think about how many television shows are out right now, streaming, between Disney, Hulu, all the bigwigs, all these huge names. Think about how many TV shows are on there. You can't just be like, hey, did you watch this show? Have you watched this movie? Have you read this article? Because there's just so much information. Common ground is easy to find in broad terms, but trying to catch on to niche ideas, it's maybe a little tougher. The outrage-driven nature of viral content has also coarsened public conversation. Nuance doesn't go viral. Complexity does not get shared. What gets shared is the hot take, the extreme position, the thing that makes you angry enough that you want to spread it. Or funny cat videos. Those have stayed popular throughout the entirety of the internet. And so our discourse becomes more polarized, more angry, more tribal. Just think about the posts that you see that are the most liked, most engaged with, okay? I've seen a lot recently of political videos, and I don't even really get into that. Like, that's not really my cup of tea. And that's what I'm seeing, because it's just shared so much. And you're like, man, people are stupid. Why can't people agree? Why can't people be, you have all these crazy thoughts that just snowball, and you're like, dang, this makes me want to share it because it's just so infuriating, so thought-provoking, And most of the time, it's not a thought-provoking act. It's like, oh, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, viral. But there's also something to be said about the erosion of presence. We're never fully where we are anymore. Think about that. We're at dinner with friends, but are we? Because we're also checking our phones. We're sitting at the table with our friends, but we're also in our pocket. It's kind of like the quote, specifically thinking back to the Mafia, the first Mafia game, where they say something along the lines of, even when you're sitting still, you're moving. Something along those lines. And that is something that I think about a lot. That's crazy. You're sitting still, but you're moving. Think about it like this, okay? With this idea, you're sitting at dinner with your friends. Where's your hand? Huh. My hand's in my pocket. I'm reaching for my phone. I'm waiting for a buzz. I'm waiting for a notification hit. Because as soon as that happens, oh, hold on one second. Boom. Like, that's kind of this idea. More examples, we're watching our kids play, but we're simultaneously scrolling through Instagram. For me, my controller, I be playing Madden while watching YouTube. What is that doing for my attention span? For my poor little pea brain? How can I focus on my offense while I'm focused up on Corey Kenshin playing Skin Freak? Okay? Even when we're on vacation where you're supposed to be taking a break, you're worried about getting the perfect photo for social media. Now, I can understand getting perfect photos for your own keepsake. But lots of people go on vacation, they take pictures. This one's going on the gram. We're living our lives at one removed, always partially elsewhere. Does that make sense to you? We're living our lives. We're living two lives in one, okay? Because we're physically somewhere, but our brains are somewhere else. The comparison culture as well has real effects too. While everyone is presenting their best selves online, it creates pressure that you do the same, which is why we go and take pictures on vacation. The performance of life becomes more important than the act of living it. So go through a little bit more with the act of living it than performing it. And yeah, I know it's cringy as to think, of like wearing a mask, okay? Because I'm thinking of like Dream, right? You're wearing a mask, being a performance of yourself. Just be yourself. Go do what you want to do. Fuck what people think. Anyways, the performance of life becomes more important than the art of living it. So, it's been a long 40, 50, 60 minutes. Here's the hard truth. This won't get better on its own, okay? The incentives haven't changed. Social media companies are still motivated by the same thing, maximizing engagement. Because guess what? They're going to keep refining these algorithms, keep finding new ways to capture our attention, keep making the trap more sophisticated, finding more ways to integrate LLMs and AI into their programs, into their software. There have been some attempts at regulation, some discussion of banning infinite scroll for children, some conversations about requiring platforms to offer chronological feeds as an option, but meaningful change is slow, especially in these corporate worlds where the companies are just so massive. These platforms are incredibly good at resisting anything that might reduce their engagement. They don't care about the well-being of people. They care about how much money they're making. So what can we do? Because here's the thing. I'm not convinced that the answer is total abstinence for most people. If you don't know what abstinence means, it means space from, or pretty much just means don't have the thing at all, okay? Social media does offer some real value. It helps us stay in touch with distant friends and family. It exposes us to ideas and perspectives that we might not encounter otherwise. It can be a source of community in some regard, especially for people who are marginalized or isolated. There is community for you in social media if you can find it. But the question is, how do we get the benefits without being consumed by it, without being absorbed, going into that negative flow state? First is awareness, right? The first step to understanding that you have a problem is recognizing the problem. So just understanding alone how these systems work, how they're designed to manipulate your behavior, can help a ton. I mean, when you catch yourself, start the doom scroll, you can recognize it for what it is. Not a personal failing, but a response to a sophisticated behavioral engineering design. That awareness creates a moment of choice. And then that also creates control. I have control over this situation. Second, create friction. I know I've said friction a couple of times, but it's a good word for this, okay? Friction, resistance, these platforms themselves are designed to be frictionless. So you have to intentionally add that friction back in. Delete apps from your phone. Only check these notifications maybe on your computer. You know, I know deleting the apps completely has helped a ton of people I know, but I know it's difficult. That's why I stay on them. Also, I have to promote stuff, so that's different. Turn off notifications. There ain't on that app that is more important, okay, than what you're doing, okay? Turn them off. Make yourself log in every time instead of staying logged in, okay? If you got to type in a little code, okay? It's kind of like your phone, right? Turning Face ID off might be a good idea because you're like, I'm checking my phone. I need to type something in. Why am I doing this? Okay, that one, I don't see most people doing that, but it's an option. Keep your phone and just keep it in another room while you're working or while you're sleeping so that you don't have the urge to grab it. And if you do, guess what? You got to get up and you have to physically walk to that. That's friction. Every bit of added friction gives you a moment to pause and ask, do I actually want to do this right now? Am I doing this because I'm bored? Because I'm anxious? Think about it. Third, tying in very nicely with the last one of friction, this is friction. Set boundaries, specific, concrete boundaries. Guess what they have on the problem, on your little square rectangle device on your phone? They have apps. And guess what kind of apps they have? They make apps specifically to block use of social media apps. And they're great. Hey, let me set this to where I can only log into Instagram 5 times a day and spend 5 minutes each time I'm on there. That's 25 minutes a day. Hey, that's going somewhere. So these boundaries, it's not an I will use social media less, because then you're holding yourself accountable and you're not going to do that. But maybe do more of I will not check social media before 10 a.m. before I get out of bed, or after 8 p.m., or I'll only check it on Tuesdays and Fridays, or I'll allow myself 15 minutes per day. They're app timers, Let the phone lock you out when you hit your limit. It's friction, it's boundary. It will stop you. You'll feel better about yourself. Fourth, replace the behavior with something else. Think about it. This is crucial. Doom scrolling. This is something we've talked about earlier in the video, right? Replaced behavior. Doom scrolling fills time. Like we mentioned, 8 years if you live to 80, 3 hours a day. It fills time and it just meets certain psychological needs, even if it's done poorly, right? If you just try to stop without replacing it with something, you'll feel that void and you'll be drawn back in. That's why you feel drawn back in, because you're like, damn, I'm bored. What am I supposed to do now? Let me go scroll. So figure out what needs doom scrolling is meeting for you. What is it? Is it boredom? Are you anxious? Are you lonely? Do you need connection? And find healthier ways to meet those needs. Go pick up a book. Go call a friend. Go for a walk, smell the roses, learn an instrument, create something. There are ways to fill your time outside of scrolling TikTok. And even if that is creating TikToks, guess what? You're creating something. You're using your brain. Fifth, this one's going to be a little more difficult, but it's curate aggressively. If you're going to use these platforms, be ruthless about what you allow into your feed. Now, I know you can't really control ads and suggested accounts, things like that, but unfollow accounts that make you feel bad, that spread negative news that you feel is only making your life worse. I think you can mute keywords. Is that something you can do? Maybe try that. Follow accounts that genuinely add value to your life, whether it be music recommendations, news that you care about, good news. Maybe follow adoption centers so you can see when puppies get adopted. Because remember, the algorithm serves what you engage with. So if you're intentional about what you engage with, you will get that back tenfold. Sixth, practice presence. And this is way harder than it sounds for a lot of people. Practice being where you are. This is what they call in the therapy business, grounding, okay? We're going to do a grounding session. I'm hearing somebody's mowing their lawn outside. What do I see? Well, I see, my audio interface here. It's got some blinking lights. I see blinking lights over here. I see light, light. What am I smelling? I'm smelling a leftover candle from the day before. What smell is that? That's cinnamon vanilla, okay? Just be present. And it's difficult. It's difficult to shut your brain off when you've taught it, when you've bred it in a sense to be this way. Give your full attention to the moment. Your brain is going to try its best to resist. It will tell you that why are you not checking your phone? That you're missing something. And that's the conditioning. You have to actively retrain yourself to be okay with not knowing what's happening online for hours at a time. You have to get rid of your online FOMO. Seventh, find community in the real world. I know we got Discord and that's community digitally, but find a community where you belong in real life. The best antidote to the hollow connections of social media is rich, real-world relationships. Prioritize face-to-face time with people. Join a club, take a class, volunteer. Build relationships that exist outside of screens. These will be the most important relationships because that person is physically there for you. If you like basketball, maybe try and find a basketball club. Go to the gym. It's kind of like go to places that you know people will have similar interests. If you like working out, where are you going to find people that also like working out? The gym. The gym. Dude, that's it. Not saying that it's easy. Making friends is still difficult, but it's about putting yourself out there, okay? And maybe most importantly, number 9 or number 8, give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace, okay? You are going to slip up. You're going to have days where you scroll for hours. You're fighting against, again, the most powerful technology companies in the world, armed with billions of dollars and the smartest behavioral psychologists that money can buy. This isn't a fair fight. You're going to lose some days. Be patient with yourself, okay? I don't want to end this on a completely dystopian note, okay? Technology itself isn't evil. It's done a lot of good for us. Social media isn't inherently bad. The problem is, in this instance, the specific implementation, the specific business model that prioritizes engagement above all else. We're living through a massive, uncontrolled experiment on human psychology and society. We've only had smartphones for about 15 years. Computers, 40 years? We've only had algorithmic feeds for about half that, 7, 8 years. We genuinely don't know what the long-term effects of this will be. We're figuring out in real time. But we're not powerless. We're not completely powerless. We can make choices. We can be intentional. We can push back against the design patterns that are designed to manipulate us. And again, just a quick breakdown of those things. The first step is seeing the system for what it is, understanding that when you find yourself scrolling at 2 a.m., feeling worse with every scroll, that's not a personal failure. It's also not an excuse if it happens more than once or twice. But when you do have those nights, that's the system working exactly as it's been designed. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And maybe that awareness is the beginning of something. Maybe it's the beginning of reclaiming some of that stolen attention. Some of these stolen hours, get them back, okay? Some of that presence and peace that's been eroded by the constant pull of the feed. Your attention, your time, your brain, some of the most valuable things you possess. The most valuable things you possess. It's how you experience life. It's how you connect with people. It's how you create meaning. And right now there's an entire industry dedicated to extracting as much of it from you as possible. Packaging it and selling it to advertisers and the top bidders. Okay, but again, it's still yours. It belongs to you. You have control over it, and you can take it back. Anyways, after a long recording session, I'm going to go doom scroll a thing. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Oh.